Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for your patience. We wanted to make sure that we had a nice, smooth meeting, that we didn't have any disruptions this evening. So we took care of what we needed to take care of, and we had the police. The police are now dealing with the situation, so we should be able to proceed with our meeting as planned. So once again, I just want to thank you for your patience. To the students, we asked you to leave for that photo because we wanted to make sure that you had no trauma this evening. So I hope that you realize that that was all for your protection. We're always concerned about your safety. So thank you. And so we're going to just go right ahead. So welcome. Take a deep breath. Put it all behind you. And we'll proceed. Welcome to the May 11th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ante?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Munsell?
Here.
Parsons?
Here.
Peacock?
Here.
Rolowitz?
Here.
Sedgwick?
Here. Thank you. All right. So the first item on our agenda is comments from the public. Dr. Davis, do we have any comments from the
Yes,
public?
we have two comments from the public. Speakers who have signed up for public comment will be invited in the order they signed up to address the board for up to 3 minutes. I will keep time and signal you at the end of 2 minutes as a courtesy. I'll let you know it's time to stop at the 3-minute mark in the event that becomes necessary. Speakers are asked to come forward and speak from the lectern up here. Please state your name and address. Public comments generally pertain to school district matters, but comments about any individuals are expressly prohibited. Please understand that the school board does not respond to public comment, but will listen carefully and will follow up as the board deems appropriate. Our first public comment is from Jessica Aguilar. Aguilar? Liz Ramirez? No? Okay. Well, that concludes public comment.
All right.
Yeah, you do have a comment? Oh. Yeah, go for it.
Where do I?
Oh, right here. Yep.
If you just state your name.
Yes, my name is Jessica and Liz, and we're just parents here at ETHS, and we're just here to show support for Nicole Sanchez, the student activity coordinator, and we just want to hope that, you know, she can continue being part of ETHS. My daughter has been part of many fundraisers and Ushley, and she has helped so many students, as I have here several pictures of many students engaging with Nicole Sanchez. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that concludes the public comment portion of tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, our next item is written communication. Dr. Davis, do we have any written communication?
No, we have no written communication this evening.
Okay. All right, then next we have items for information. And the first item is the student recognition, the DECA state competition. Here we go.
Yeah, come on up, come on up. You just like line up in front of them.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's quite a few of you here, so that's very exciting.
Yeah.
What a DECA year it was. This year, Evanston took 49 students to the State Illinois Career Development Conference. Just under 2,400 students attended this competition in hopes of earning the opportunity to attend the international competition in April. Students have been working since last May on their written events and early September on their competitive role plays. So the way I'm just going to kind of announce their recognition is we'll start with state with their mini awards, their grand awards, then we'll move to the national recognition. Some of the students are here, some of them are not. If they're not here, I still feel it's important to recognize them. So when your name is called and you are here, just kind of like raise your hand so the school board knows who I'm talking about, okay? The following students earned a mini award in their role play event at state competition. Sarah Hunt earned second place in the Business Administration Core Exam. Samana Manur earned third place in the Business Administration Core Exam. For Principles of Finance, Sojo Fitzgreen earned first place in Information Management Role Play and first place in Communication Skills Role Play. Farah Levin earned third place in the Business Operations Role Play for the Principles of Hospitality and Tourism event. Nola Bokar earned third place in Product Service Management Role Play for Apparel and Accessories. Jesse Deschart earned first place in Selling for his role play, second in Product Service Management Role Play for Automotive Services. Curtis Greenspan and Asher Fortunato earned first place in their Marketing Role Play for their Entrepreneurship Team Decision Making event. The following students earned top 10 at the Grand Awards ceremony at the state competition. For Principles of Business Management, Sarah Hunt. For Principles of Entrepreneurship, Audrey Cervantes. For Principles of Hospitality and Tourism, Farah Levin. Entrepreneurship, Team Decision Making, Asher Fortunato and Curtis Greenspan. For a written event, the Business Service Operations Research Event focusing on consumer social responsibility and the company Jackbox, Nola Bokar and Carla Hackett. The Career Development Project, Major Match, focusing in on helping ETHS students zone in on careers they might want to pursue prior to starting their college path, Grace Vandenberg and Dorothy Breen. Community Giving Project, Live for Lurie's, focusing on raising money for Lurie's Children's Hospital and the Pediatric Unit for children who are losing their hearing, Liv Gerstein. An International Business Plan, J-Easy, a mobile application developed for booking vacations in Japan made easy, Teddy Gutstein and Ben Matza. The following students placed in the top 5 for their role play events, advancing to the international competition that was held just a few weeks ago in Atlanta, Georgia. There's over 24,000 students at this competition. It's significantly grown over the past years. Students who placed in the top 4 of their written event advanced as well. International competition took place in Atlanta, Georgia, April 24th to the 29th. The following students were in role play, Principles of Business Management, who took third place, Samana Manor. Principles of Finance, Ben Matza took fourth place. Sojo Fitzgreen took first place. Principles of Hospitality and Tourism, fourth place, Ben Davis. Principles of Entrepreneurship, third place, Ben Hore. Second place, Automotive Service Marketing, Jesse Deschart. In regards to the written event winners, our Community Awareness Project, focusing on Wild Kit Care Kits that benefit the Evanston students and assist with the drug and narcotic addiction and awareness. Skylar Hoffman and Lacey Triplett took first place. Hospitality and Tourism Operations Research Event focusing in on consumer social responsibility at La Principal. Ivy Hogan and Amelia Ward took third place. Our Independent Business Plan, Embrace Code, developing a clothing line for females who have scoliosis. Anna Stolar and Hannah Cervantes took fourth place. Start up a business plan, Mason Singular, one of the luxury fashion houses, a high-end fashion company that targets wealthy buyers who value sustainability and individuality. Asher Fortunato and Curtis Greenspan took fourth place. Nationals was another exciting achievement for these students. Ben Davis, where are you? Ben, stand forward. Ben earned a medallion for placing in the top 20 out of over 250 competitors in his Principal Business Administration Cluster exam. Ben Matza, step forward. And Sojo Fitzgreen placed in the top 20, earning the opportunity to compete again in their Principles of Finance event. In addition, Sojo earned a top 20 medallion in her role play. Jessie, step forward, thank you. Placed, oh, yep. Jessie placed top 20 in automotive services marketing, earning the opportunity to compete as well. The Grand Awards was an exciting time for ETHS as both Sojo and Ben earned top 10 overall in their event. Results were provided last week showing that Ben placed 7th overall while Sojo placed 4th overall, missing the podium by just one spot. All students this year put forth an amazing effort and worked so hard. Myself, Mr. Patel, and Mr. Manila are so proud of these students' accomplishments. Finally, I would like to thank the assistant advisors, Mr. Manila and Mr. Patel, for their efforts in prepping the students for their competition. Thank you also to the Thank you also to the administration, my department head, the board, and the boosters for the continuous support of DECA. Thank you.
All right, students, we would all like to, the board and myself would like to congratulate you, shake your hands, and give you a pen. And so just come in the line around the horseshoe, and we will give you congratulations.
Here's your pen. Congratulations. Congratulations. Wow.
Congratulations, you're welcome. Congratulations, you're welcome. I was hoping they would like.
Yeah, there you go.
So looking here, everyone. 1, 2, 3, much better backdrop than the cafeteria. 1, 2, and then parents, please feel free. Yay! Yeah. Thank you. Congrats again.
So we'll take a quick pause.
Change it with your officer? Just to see.
What is she changing purses? Really?
She has a purse thing, a bag thing.
Bag
I do too. I just bought some Portland
Oh, yeah.
backpack.
That's a
It's
nice.
a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big
Where
deal, yes.
Yeah, your daughter is.
Yes.
Nice, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again for your patience. That's a great way to start a meeting. So now I'm definitely in the groove. So we're going to have a presentation from the AFS USA International Exchange student.
Yes. So, Board, I'm going to invite Carol Muskin, a volunteer with AFS USA, and all of our students. I think there are 5 of them here
Nice.
tonight
Great.
who have been a part of ETHS for the last year. They're from other countries, and they're going to share just briefly about their experience at ETHS this past school year. And yeah, I think, yeah. So
Ooh, they're
that's
going to
what-
share with us. Nice. They'll do much better, right?
Kind of shook. I know. Get back. I know.
I know, it is.
Look,
It is.
I
Different
know.
way of studying.
Thank you so much to the board for having us back again. My name is Carol Muskin, and I am a volunteer with AFS USA. We were here last year when we were hosting 3 students. And this year, I believe I've been around for about 10 years as an AFS volunteer. And this is, I believe, the only year we've had 5 students at ETHS, at least in the 10 years that I've been around. So it's been a very, very exciting year. So just to refresh your memory, AFS USA is the largest and oldest of the high school international exchange organization. We have a really fascinating origin story that the students probably all know, but during World War I, Americans first became involved in the conflict as volunteer ambulance drivers, and those volunteers, at the end of a fairly horrific experience in World War I, decided that something needed to be done. There needed to be a way to bridge the differences across countries. And so AFS was started shortly after World War I, and of course grew very much in the 60s, 70s, 80s. As a volunteer, I've been involved for 15 or 20 years, but my AFS journey started when I was a high school student in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Back in the 70s in Muskogee, Oklahoma, you didn't meet very many people from around the world. So my junior year, we hosted Diane, from the Republic of South Africa, and that began my AFS journey. AFS is also really well known as the exchange program that is really almost totally volunteer run. We have a small, slim staff, but for the most part, the supporting of the students, the selecting of the students, all of this is done via volunteers. So we want to thank the board and the school for hosting AFS students for a very long time. But I want to also just give a nod to Dr. Campbell for serving on the AFS USA board. So we really appreciate his service to AFS as an entire organization. So over the past 9-10 years that I've been around, I believe if my numbers are right, AFS has had 18 different students at ETHS, all of them having phenomenal experiences. Many of those students coming from Europe, but also students from Asia, Japan, and China, students from South America, such as Chile. But we also have several students who've come, 6 out of the 18, who've come to AFS through the U.S. State Department scholarship programs. Those students work very hard. In fact, the statistics say that it's as difficult for one of these students to earn one of these U.S. State Department scholarships as it is difficult for an American student to get into Harvard. So you'll meet these students and they'll say, oh, you know, 1,000 applied and 3 of us got to come. So these scholarship students really worked hard to get here, and we're lucky this year to have a student from Poland, Amelia. All of the students will introduce themselves in a moment, but we wanted to make a special presentation for any high school in the U.S. who does host one of these U.S. State Department scholarship students receive a special medallion certificate. So last year we were here because FOSSI was hosted in the spring from Malaysia from the YES program. And this year we have Amelia from the FLEX program, and Amelia's now going to present the certificates. Oh, you did. She did. Present the certificate. Yes. Yes, come. Come, you'll be the first one. Please introduce yourself and say just a word about what the FLEX program is.
Okay, so my name is Amelia and I'm from Poland. I applied to FLEX program around like 2 years ago, and then it was a whole 1-year process application to come here. Actually, I applied to this program before my freshman year. Now I'm a senior. And I didn't get in, and then I gave up, and then I applied again. So I actually got into FLEX after 2 or 3 years. So yeah, and FLEX program is a program for European and Euro-Asian countries. It's a full scholarship program. You can apply for it, and it's funded by United States Department. We have also great FLEX alumni opportunities. So after coming back from the United States, it's not the end of our adventure. Like, we can still work and present United States and ourselves in our countries. So yeah.
Before you leave, why don't you say one thing that you felt was very special about your time here at ETHS?
Okay, so one of my favorite highlights was being part of the Nutcracker play. Yeah, because I got a chance to act in the Nutcracker, and I do theater in Poland a lot, but it's completely different here. There's much more people. I love the energy, the stagecraft, costumes. It's taken care, like, we're just taken care of you very well by all of the staff, and it was amazing. I love my teachers here. Wait, can I just speak like this? Because I feel like... Okay. Teachers were really amazing, especially my language teacher. It was really great. I have really good experience with teachers. I will miss them a lot. Yeah, and I love the diversity and people in ETHS. It's amazing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elias. I'm from Italy. For me, one of the best thing of ETHS was probably the sports. I really like sports, and the fact that school is a really complex system. Because back home, school is school, and there is no sport, there is no other clubs and anything. So I really like the fact that there are many options, many possibilities that students can apply to. Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Nina. I'm from France, and I really liked the relationships that I got with some of my teachers. It's really different from France. Teachers in France are really distant from you, and I really like that here it's a big family. So.
I'm Olivia. I'm from Spain. What I really love about ETHS is the diversity, and there's people from everywhere, and all of the activities that the school provides, like summits and all the clubs, and how you can find something for you. I as well love theater, as well as Amelia, and I did stage crew, which I loved. The community was amazing. I met great people. I'm really sad to go back. Yeah, I have really good friends. All my teachers are great. I also love all of the classes that we have here. like you can really find all of the arts classes are amazing, and you can find classes that fit for you, and they all work. In Spain, it's just you have assigned classes, you can't really choose. So it's really great. It's a very good school. I really like it.
Hi, my name is Noel. I'm from Sweden. The best thing about ETHS is the classes. You can pick and choose how you want. It has allowed me to challenge myself, like in my math, taking extra hard math classes or astrophysics, and also computer science. Would never be able to even learn that in Sweden because you take a track instead of classes. So I need to stick to the classes by track. It shows off for me. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I know some of you were at prom on Saturday. How was prom? It was good.
Can I give them?
You want a picture with your house families too?
Thank you so much.
Kids,
hello?
don't forget, kids, we want to give you a ETHS. We want to shake your hands and say,
Here's your pen. Oh, thank you. ETHS. Thank you. Thank you for yours. Thank you. Here's your pen. You're welcome. You're welcome. You did a great job.
and thank you, Carol. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, thank you. So I see coming to the table.
There we go.
We're getting ready for a presentation by National Louis University.
All right, so board, we're going to invite Thaxton Lundry to the table along with Tana. Tana, you coming to the table?
Tana's going to backbench, she said.
Okay, so just Thaxton. Big table. Here at the table to discuss an exciting partnership that we've had with National Louis for the last couple of years, well, last 2 years, year and a half? Year, okay.
Year and a half.
And we're really excited about this work, and so I'm going to turn this over to Thaxton, and then we've got Tana Francelno in the back, who's been working with us. We also have Dale and Pete, all who can speak to some of our workforce development partnerships, but tonight we're focusing on National Louis University. So Thaxton, take it away.
Thank you so much for the time. I'm Thaxton Lundy, here from a program called Accelerate U at National Louis. I will say, tough act to follow, just amazing, amazing students. I also am happy to have helped clear out the room as part of my presentation here tonight. So if you need, room clearing, I'm happy to come back and help. So my goal for the next couple minutes is just to tell you a little bit about this program. We're really proud of the model that we're building. We think this is a new kind of way to do college. And we're deeply grateful to be working with ETHS. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, just a reminder on National Louis and kind of what this project is, what we're doing specifically in Evanston, and then happy to answer any questions at the end if you have them. I think people know National Louis. There's a lot of people at ETHS who have degrees from National Louis. National Louis headquartered in Evanston for about 80 years, from 1926 to 2006. Have had campuses in and around the area. You can see some stats on what we're doing. The college was founded back in the 1860s by a woman entrepreneur who was committed to educating immigrant kids in Chicago. And she was partly responsible for bringing the PTA to the United States. Her name was Elizabeth Harrison, brought the PTA to the United States, helped start kindergarten in the United States. And I share that not to get into the ancient history of National Louis, but because there is a kind of DNA of our institution that is deeply committed to figuring out how to make higher ed kind of equitable and accessible, and to figure out how to kind of break down the walls of higher ed and go meet people where they are. And so you can see the students that we're working with broadly in Chicago. We have an undergraduate college that serves about 6,000 students a year. And that program, our college, our undergraduate college, was designed specifically for first-gen students. So really small class sizes, really tons of coaching, support, wraparound services, low tuition. And we were really proud and continue to be really proud of that program. But we noticed a couple things. One was we weren't even having a conversation with students who had decided that college was not for them. So if they had people in their life that were saying you should go get a college degree, we might be able to talk to them through a guidance counselor. But if they weren't sure, or they had decided for whatever reason that they weren't going to go to college, we just never even got to talk to them. That was one problem. The second problem was that we had students who would get into our program and a year or two into the program would stop out. And when you ask them, despite all these design elements that we had created to serve them well, when you ask them why they stopped out, over and over and over again, we heard, I need to work, I need a job, I need to support myself or my family, whatever it may be. And so about 5 years ago, we started a new program at the college called Accelerate U. I came to the university to help get this program up and running. And we call it Job First Higher Education. And so we've sort of flipped the idea of how a college degree can work. And the idea is really, the concept's pretty simple, and that is that we try and get people a job on the front end of a degree instead of at the back end. And we use the job as a way to help people stabilize things economically. So these are jobs that don't require a college degree. These are jobs like a medical assistant or an IT help desk professional, or a sales rep, jobs that are good jobs where you can get benefits and stabilize things and figure out what you want to do. And then our goal is to work with you to earn a college degree over time. And we do that with in the 5 blue boxes. We have sort of 5 design principles. So number one is we start with the job first. We go find employers that have open jobs in and around Chicago, and in this case in Evanston, and they need talent, and we build training pathways that lead to that job. Number 2 is we work really hard to make sure that the learner stays at the center of everything we do. So these programs are short, usually 2 to 6 months long. They're hybrid, so you can do online and in person. And then we wrap students in a ton of support and coaching to make sure that if they run into some kind of hiccup or barrier, they've got resources to help navigate that. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. Number 3 is we really are trying to get a combination of technical skills. So how do you put a needle in someone's arm? How do you fix a broken laptop? But then also all the durable or leadership skills that we all know are what really matter for any job, right? How do you ask questions when you don't know the answer? What do you do if someone's really mad at you to de-escalate things? How do you work well on a team, et cetera? The last 2 are, I think, pretty straightforward. We cap the cost of every one of our programs at about $7,000, equivalent of a Pell Grant. So if you're full Pell eligible, you'll pay $0 out of pocket to come to our program. We want to kind of get rid of as much debt as possible on the front end. And then everything we do is stackable. So every credit you earn in this program can fold into any of our degree pathways at National Louis. And so this is really what we're trying to do as a college is build a both-and model. A lot of people, when you ask them, have a kind of 2-track frame in their mind. You either go to college or you go get a job. It's really hard, even for the best intentioned people, to figure out how to do both of those at once. And there's a long, pretty dark history in our country of splitting those up and sending certain kids down certain paths. And so what we're trying to do as a college is scramble that. We're trying to say, actually, what if you actually use the job as a way to try and slingshot yourself into upward mobility, first of all, and then second of all, into a degree in a time and on a way that makes sense for you. And we do that. We have a goal internally at Accelerate U called our 80-80-20 goal. So we like to see 80% of the students who start our program complete, 80% of the students who complete to get a job in the field that they trained in within 3 months. And then we like to see a $20,000 bump in compensation from the day they show up to us to the day they leave with their new job. And we aren't at these targets yet, so we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 75% completion. We're getting about 70% of our students into jobs right now, and our students are seeing $13,000 to $14,000 of comp bumps in 6 or 7 months. So it's pretty good, but we aren't at our target yet. We still got a bunch of work to do. But we've set this as an ambitious target because we believe that that if you're going to do this work, you got to put your money where your mouth is and really deliver outcomes for students. And by the way, for the students that don't complete, we work really hard to figure out how to get them back into our program or get them to another program so that they can find a pathway that works for them. Just wanted to share a little bit of stats. You may be asking, like, who comes to this program? Who are the students that are attracted to Accelerate U? We've served about 1,200 students today. We train about 360, 370 students a year right now. You can read the stats on your own. This is our macro data for everybody that we're serving. I'll draw your attention just really quickly to the top right. So 3/4 of our students are working part or full-time while they're in our programs. And so people are really sort of fitting, this is sort of college fitting into their life. And then the middle box, which I guess is the only one that doesn't have a number, is that we really focus on what we call the mighty middle. The middle 2 quartiles of the graduating class. So this is a program, if you're top 10 of your class, you're probably going to a 4-year institution, which is great. We're really trying to grab those students in the middle that are trying to figure out exactly what they want to do next and using this Accelerate U program and the Job First idea as a hook. We focus in healthcare and tech. So our largest program is a medical assistant program. It's a 6-month training with a 1-month externship at a employer partner. And then we have technology programs as well. So healthcare and tech, we have 5 different pathways right now for students to consider. There's a lot going on this slide, and we'll share the slides with you afterwards, but this is the medical assistant program. You can see some of the partners that we're working with in the bottom right. We train students up for about 6 months. They learn how to do all the basics of being a medical assistant, and then they get to show everything that they know with a bunch of our employer partners. We work with Endeavor, Erie, and Northwestern Medicine here in Evanston. And speaking of, we have been working, as Dr. Campbell said, we've been working in Evanston for about a year. We were invited to come here as part of a collection of organizations that Northwestern University brought together as part of their workforce initiative as part of the stadium build here in town. And so we're really working closely with the high school, with Northwestern, and a variety of other partners, some of whom I think maybe you all are either very familiar with or maybe have even heard from at the table here. And I guess just one thing that I would call out is that anybody who went to ETHS or anybody who lives in Evanston is eligible for a $1,500 stipend as part of the program to help offset any costs or other kinds of things that come with the program. So in addition to the financial aid that 85% of our students take advantage of, there's also a little bit of spending money to make it easier to get into and finish a program. And I will say, I'm announcing this for the first time very publicly tonight. On Friday, I learned that our very first student in Evanston we got our first student hired on Friday at Endeavor here in town. So she's an ETHS grad, graduated a couple years ago, just finished our program, just got a job offer. So the model is working broadly, but is working very specifically in Evanston, and we hope that that is the first of many, 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 many more to come here in Evanston. Just really quickly, last thing I'll say is we set up this Accelerate U program, and I mentioned that stackable thing at the beginning where we try and get people into degrees. And we've built what we think is a brand new model nationally. We have a 3-year college degree. So when you've done Accelerate U, you can take all those credits and you can actually, in 2.5 more years, earn a college degree. We call it Learn and Earn in 3. It launched about a year ago. And of the first 15 or 16 students that are in the program, I think 9 or 10 of them have already gotten promotions in their jobs. They're all working towards their college degree. So we're really just trying to figure out how to create a model that will work really well for ETHS students who are finishing and figuring out what they're going to do next. So that's what I wanted to share. Again, I just wanted to make sure this was on all of your all's radar so you know that this is happening. We have about 15 ETHS graduates from the last couple of years who are in the program now. Our goal is to get to 20, 25, 30, eventually 50 students a year coming through this pathway. And again, you know, earning college credit that they can apply to a degree at NLU or take with them over time. So thanks for the chance to share a little bit more. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them, but thanks for the time.
Thank you. This sounds really exciting. You said about 50 students from Evanston. That's kind of what you're hoping for?
Yeah, right now we have about 15 students in the last year who've gone in the program, but if you told me that we could do more than 50, we would do even more than 50. That 50 is is a number that is bigger than where we are now, but we really do think that this is a different and for some students just better way to do college.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited to try and figure out how to make this happen in Evanston.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. All right, questions? Pat?
Thank you. This is great. This is just a really wonderful presentation and program. So I had a question. You mentioned that you get them the job first.
Yes.
So is the idea that they go into a job like a medical assistant, then their program is all leading towards a higher level medical assistant? Is that kind of, so they come in, it's not just like any job, it's a job with a focus on their path?
That's exactly right, yeah.
Okay.
So we're using the job, so we're very explicit with students that we want this job to be an opportunity to do a couple things. One is, for a lot of students, we want to just stabilize things economically, right? So if you aren't sure, you aren't working, you're sort of making ends meet, we want to get that in place. We have found that if you're trying to figure out your job and you're trying to be a college student, it's really hard balance, right? So first and foremost, it's just to get into a job, get benefits, full-time pay. But yeah, these are jobs that don't require college degrees, and we want students to be going to earn college degrees. And so there's a bunch of different ways that you can stack that together. So we have a nursing program at our university, right? So if you're a medical assistant and you love the clinical work, we can get you into a nursing degree so you can then get a bachelor's degree and move your way up. You may become a medical assistant and get in there and decide, oh my gosh, I actually love the community part of this. I love being with people. Great, we'll get you into a social work degree, or we'll get you into an HR degree, or we'll get you into another pathway or business degree if you like the business part. So I think one of the challenges, I won't ask anybody to raise their hand on this, but when you come out of high school and you're figuring out what you're going to go do next, if you're doing a college degree, not many people know when they're 18 or 19 what they're going to go do. Right. And so part of what we're doing in this work experience is giving them a chance to try that out and figure it out. Do I like working in an office? Do I like working with patients or customers? Do I like working in an environment that's high stress? Do I like, working locally? Do I like traveling for work? What do I like to do? And, I can give all the presentations in the world and we can have glossy flyers, but the truth is you have to kind of feel that and figure that out. And so what we're trying to we're using the job to try and do that. And we're just trying to get them a head start to figure out what it is. And the reason why we picked the specific jobs is that we want to set the students up to be successful. There's a lot of training programs out there where you can train people up, get them a certificate, and it's like, best of luck. Yeah. What we're trying to do is understand the job deeply and then essentially create the IKEA owner's manual for the students, right? So that they know every step of the way in the program how to be really successful in that job and then find success. And this may not be as much of a case at ETHS as we heard from all the students earlier, but a lot of students that we serve are kind of out on school. They've had a pretty tough high school experience. They aren't sure about formal education. And so part of what we're doing in the 6 months is reconvincing them of not only of their skills and abilities, but also of the power of a degree and staying on. And what we've found over and over and over again is when students go get that job and they have the experience and they're like, I got a college ID, I'm a student, and I now have a job, that it really kind of propels them to a bunch of new opportunities that may not have they didn't even know about before that. So.
Right. And that's really interesting. Quick question too on, do you work with the employers? Because I would imagine you want that experience to work in tandem with what you're trying to do. So.
Exactly. This is a big part. So we have an entire employer engagement team. Their whole job is to figure out who are the employers that we're working with? Where are those job slots? Where is the job market heading? How do we create a smooth transition from training into jobs? So one of the tracks that I didn't even mention it, but the second one from the right, tech sales, we're training people to get into tech sales jobs. These are commission jobs. So it's a base salary of $55,000. Most people will earn somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000 their first year out with a high school degree and 6 months of training. And we are lining up those tech sales jobs and then training people to go get into those roles. We're introducing this program in a couple of weeks. We're really excited about 3 months of training and then a 3-month paid internship into a full-time job. And that just all relies on having employers waiting to grab the students when they get done. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we're trying to do, again, this braiding of both and, is be a higher ed institution that's good at recruiting students and finding students, but then also really good at working with employers and using the training program as a bridge to get there.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for the questions.
You, Leah.
Well, I just had a quick question. So you said that the credits from the work in this program are stackable, and they could go on to pursue the undergraduate degree at National Louis. Are the credits only stackable and applied to NLU? What if a student then later on wants to go to a different undergraduate institution?
They can take the credits anywhere they want.
Okay.
We don't want them to do that, just for the record, but that we are happy for them to do that. Yeah, we're an accredited national institution of higher education. Mm-hmm. The credits, if they take any of our coursework, they can apply it to anywhere else. And I would say that, like, we have students who do our training and then leave the state. We have students that do our training and then go work for 3 years, and then we hear from them 3 years later. Part of this is to put the student in the driver's seat, and a lot of times you'll see workforce training that will get someone into that job, but then if they go to another state or they change sectors or they decide they want to go get a degree, they got a certificate, but that doesn't really stack into anything. And so one of the reasons why we did this at a higher ed institution instead of on its own as a nonprofit or for-profit boot camp is the power of being part of higher ed, frankly, and having that credit and having the financing that will help make sure that students can complete it and that they've got something to show for the training and time that they put into it.
That sounds good. I think the flexibility and mobility are important.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you.
I love this idea, and I appreciate you giving us the background and the history of National Louis. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that National Louis then would pursue a program like this. My question is, how early do you start trying to connect with students when they're in high school? Because we of course try to make sure that they have a plan when they leave high school. How early do you start reaching out to them?
Yeah, well, there's an answer for that in Chicago, and there's an answer for Evanston, and I'll do both. In Chicago, we have a whole bunch. We work with tons and tons of high schools. We're recruiting out of high schools all the time. The truth is that in most cases, we're getting to seniors.
Yeah.
And this is a program that works really well for students that just aren't sure what they want to do.
Yeah.
This is a way to give students an opportunity to try something new or something different. And so that works out really well. I think what we're trying to do in Evanston is a little bit more multi-layered than that. And I think Dr. Campbell and our team, we've had a couple of different really great conversations about how to integrate this in as an option. So not just being, in the hub or having flyers around, but like, one, how do we make sure that the teachers that are teaching students in subject matter areas that are related to any of this work know this as an option and can refer students? Tana and I have spent a bunch of time in the hallways here in classrooms presenting to students about what's on offer here. Two is really working with guidance counselors. The guidance counselors, any guidance counselor, but certainly the guidance counselors here, if you ask them, can tell you 3 students off the top of their head that they are like, that they love all their students, but that they really love and they want to try and figure out how to get the right thing for them next. And it may not be a kind of traditional route. And so I think figuring out how to do that. We've got to find the right sweet spot here, right? It's like, if it's too early, it's kind of like, I'll get to that later. If it's too late, it's like, I don't know. And so we're trying to figure that out. And I think our partnership is that it's really taking shape there. The one group that we are really focused on trying to get to, though, and I didn't mention it in the stats, but most of our students are a couple years out of high school. They, if I could wave a magic wand, I'd put Accelerate U in senior year. Because I'd try and save students time and not have them do that. But what I will say is we do see that students need a couple years to figure out what it is that they want to do, and frankly, sometimes to run into some blocks. And to realize that maybe some of the things that they were doing are not exactly what they want to do. And so, so the group that we're really focused on here in Evanston is the ETHS grads who either went to college, it didn't work out, and came back home, or they didn't go to college, and they're here trying to figure out what's next. And we think that there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them.
How do you
There's many,
find
many,
them? How do you
many,
find
many
them?
hundreds.
Yeah.
Many hundreds. And so this is the nut to crack in Evanston, and the thing that we're trying to figure out right now, because the best way that we've found is going directly to the community.
Sure.
Through elected officials, community organizations, all the partners that we're working with.
Right.
Going to Robert Crown, looking for students at Robert Crown. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could be doing. But this is a big area of growth. I didn't mention this. I'm a D65 dad. I'm going to be a Wildcat dad in a year. You'll find me under the table, balled up. The idea that my 7th grader is going to be in high school very soon, not because of ETH, but just because she's in 7th grade and feels a lot older than I remember her being. But yeah, so you know, there's work that we need to do as a community to find students when they've left the high school.
Sure.
And get them back on track.
Sure.
And this is we think, a program that can really help to do that. But that's going to take collective work. That's real work that we need to do together. So.
Yeah. I love it. I love that you're thinking about that, and you're thinking in that broad way, and you don't have to have all the answers right now. As you
Well, that's why
work through this.
we're doing it as a partnership with the high school to figure it out.
It's good. All right, Monique.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that, because as I was listening to this, I was like, that's not the group, right? And I would think, like, a lot of us know that group you're talking about, or people that are in that group. How do we, I don't know if that's, I don't think it's a question for you to answer. I think it's a question for us to answer. Like, how do we bring those kids or those young adults now to this type of program? I mean, right off the head, I'm like, this is Cradle. But
Brandy just left.
But I will say, like, I know the partners that you have there, they're having that same issue, right? So.
But YJC.
You have the collective, you have Evanston Own It. You know, so I'm like, okay, so how do you really, I guess, I don't know what the, you know, how successful the Trade Collective is being, but yeah, how do we do that? How do we get that group? Because there's a bunch of them in Evanston.
It's a bunch of them, yes.
Right now that have graduated from ETHS that are still trying to find their way, and they know nothing about this.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to figure out. That work's going to be ongoing. And it will continue. We're just excited about that we have something like this to refer them to as we think about not only potential juniors and seniors, but also some of the kids who've already have matriculated through the school, who that we see around the community, who are underemployed and looking for something to do.
So,
and we have that conversation too with the Trade Collective.
Right.
So that's what's happening on multiple tracks here. Dale and Pete, do you have anything to add?
Well, I was going to ask that, the alumni, I was going right there. So do we register our seniors immediately in becoming a part of the Alumni Association, or do we?
They sign up, they give us their information, their new email addresses, but we keep the ETHS address active, but there's a real concerted effort to get those kids signed up in the Alumni Association before they leave.
Is that relatively new?
No, we've been doing that for a while.
I would say like a couple things. One is we need to be more intentional early in the early grades around our case management and connecting kids to opportunities in as early as 9th, 10th, 11th grade. And also in partnering with District 65, there's a great opportunity to back that into 7th grade, really, in terms of exploration. And we have the tools now to be able to do that through school links. And after students graduate, we have something called STEAM-E, which we will talk about, is how we track local students who go to local employers and be able to monitor their movement and participation in the workforce. So those are just two of those things. But I think like the key here is to connect, to use the data we have, because we have a lot of it, right? We have grade data, we have attendance data, we have all that data, but we also have school links data. Connect those two and then really be intentional around connecting students to those opportunities, whether it's Accelerate U and early, because we know that relationships matter. It's one thing to learn about Accelerate U as a senior. It's another thing to learn about it in 9th grade, I would say, because it creates awareness, it creates a relationship. And if the more intentional we are with that and the more we task folks with that as part of a caseload, as part of like a career ambassador kind of situation, we'll see more awareness, more access, and more success in this area.
Yeah, and I would say it's another thing to be reminded of it when you're 20 years old.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
After you have, because I will tell you, unless it's, I don't know, something else like possibly homecoming or a game, they don't still see themselves as students of ET. I mean, right? Because they graduated. So when you connect this opportunity to someone that has already graduated ETHS, they don't see themselves as still receiving this kind of support to go out and find their way. They're doing it and they're struggling and they're bumping their heads, against how do I make a living for myself? How do I survive? How do I stay in Evanston, right? And I think that is the reality of, this group I'm thinking about. I mean, that's what I see. And oftentimes they do end up leaving our community because they can't afford it. And they're not connected to a career that is, or a job that's giving them a career.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
I love so many things that you just said, and I guess one thing that comes to mind, we spent a lot of time in our program talking about social capital, how you build that among students, and part of what we're trying to do in our program is to just build an army of people who are locked arms, getting new jobs, starting to change what the workforce looks like. And one way that we build that is through alumni coaches. So we have people who have finished our program who come back to help the next group of students learn. And so I wonder in Evanston in particular, whether there's a way for us to build a really concerted effort around the alumni work so that we have, start off small, 2, 3, 5, 7 alum who are going around Evanston trying to find people who are 20, 21, 22 and reminding them about the opportunity. I just think there's a lot of creative things that we could be doing in Evanston. I'll speak for our Accelerate U, that we can be doing to try and figure out how to grow this. So I think this is the beginning of the sentence, not the end of the sentence, hopefully, and we've got lots of good work together ahead.
Yeah, because I think once the word gets out,
Well,
that will really, it'll catch.
Well, that's exactly why we invited them here.
Yeah.
So that we can start to get the word
Get the word
out,
out.
bringing them to a very public meeting to have this
Yeah.
conversation.
Sure.
These
This
kinds
is
of
great.
opportunities exist and really lift it up publicly. So
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So I learned a long time ago that when you get to speak to a group like this, you always got to call them to act in something. So I've got 3 requests, if that's okay, for this group. Number one, you've already touched on it, is just help us spread the word about what we're doing. Help us let people know about this. And my email address is here at the bottom. But number 2 is we are on the hunt for creative ways to find learners. and to integrate this into the community. This is, as I said, this is a professional pursuit of mine. This is a deeply personal one for me as well, as this is where I live, and this is the work that I want to do for the rest of my career. And so help us figure out how to find students in your networks or even employers in your networks that are looking to hire great talent. And then the third is, I would just say, an open call. I spent my career in K-12 schools. I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my career, and I ended up getting into this work because it just seemed like there were sparks that were flying in the intersection of high school, college, and work, and that we needed to design better pathways and opportunities. But I think the third thing was continue to put pressure on higher ed to build better models. Higher ed needs to be breaking down some of the barriers and creating new and different pathways and holding themselves and all of us accountable for the outcomes. It's just not good enough to say we don't know what happened to students. We need to be saying, this is the program that we're building, this is why it's working, this is why we created the way that we did, and this is why this is the right thing for students to pick, and that they should ultimately make that decision. And so that's what we're trying to do with Accelerate U. It's a small, relatively small program now, but there's no other models like this that we've seen. This is a new and kind of national model, and Evanston is the place where we want to try and build it and grow it. So it's really appreciate the time. I think I went way over, but thank you very much for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you.
You've got my contact information. If there's any thoughts or questions, happy to get a coffee at a coffee shop nearby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, this is wonderful. This is really good. Really good. Thank you. You'll send us the slides, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I'll make sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. This turned out to be a pretty good meeting. Okay. All right, so we are doing our quarterly update follow-up. There's a follow-up.
Just going to have Dr. McNeil to come back with the actionable steps that we've been talking about, this attendance data and this tardy stuff for all year. And so Dr. McNeil has some updates to share with the board that she's already shared with the faculty and the staff. She and Manira Bolas, our Director in Student Services, will come and share their work, a little bit of rationale behind their work, and ETHS will see some major changes next school year. So take it away, Dr. McNeil and Manira, Ms. Bolas.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Dr. McNeil, and this is Ms. Manira Bolas, our Director of Student Services. And we're going to present tonight about our proposed new approach to attendance by redefining attendance from punishment to support. So this year, as we've discussed previously, I engaged in a year-long process, a collaborative process, in order to review and revise our attendance policies. Two policies in particular that we're going to talk about tonight is our no credit policy and our tardy rollover practice. So Ms. Bolas will speak about the no credit policy, and then I'll take us through the tardy rollover practice. But first, I want to talk you through our process we used. So as I mentioned, it was a very collaborative process. We engaged in multiple rounds of feedback and input. This work started from the adult side in our MTSS committee, but really, even that was in February, but even before that, this was lifted up for me at our student voice forum during first semester. Many students who came to the Student Voice Forum that was held by the Student Union really lifted up this concern around this tardy rollover practice. There was also some discussion at that forum around the NC policy. And so Ms. Bolas and I worked with our MTSS committee to review data. We also developed some action plans rooted from that data. And then we kind of went on this feedback tour, if you will, to kind of gather multiple rounds of feedback. And so we got feedback from our Teachers Council Planning Advisory Committee, give them an opportunity. Those are standing members of the committee, of the Teachers Council members, and they were able to give us some feedback on some of our proposed plans and some insights and thoughts for us to think about on both policies. We also did a staff talking circle to get additional information from staff because we wanted to make sure we had a broad, broad base for feedback to ensure that those who were not on the planning committee could also give feedback from staff. And then we got some student feedback. So I had this idea to host a student talking circle and provide pizza because I know kids like to eat. But what I did intentionally was I invited students who had attendance challenges only. So it was like by invite only. And that's because I had already spoken to our members of our student union, but we wanted to make sure that, I wanted to make sure, it was really important to me that we heard from those who would be most impacted by these policies because they might have different opinions. And so I wanted to ensure that I was hearing all voices. And so in addition to talking to the student union, I also held about 2 talking circles during lunch periods, and I provided pizza. So that was fun. And then Manira and I took all the feedback that we got, we took it back to our MTSS committee to talk through additional plans and how we could update our proposals based on the data we collected and the information that we received from our stakeholders. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Bolis to talk you through the NC policy.
Great, thank you. So our NC policy, what we've our nickname for it. So the no credit policy really is in regards to students once they hit 6 unexcused absences. So at the point that a student has 6 unexcused absences, this is the intervention process that our team has been going through in order to support the student. So first, is our kind of tier 1 support. So automatically parents are receiving notifications if a student has an unexcused absence for their class. It's typically through that email. Then once it hit that 6th threshold, there's regular reports that I receive, and then a member of the grade level team was being assigned as a champion to support that student. So weekly I would receive this report, we'd identify which students had hit that 6 threshold, and a champion would be assigned, and the point of the champion would really be to create an attendance support plan. So first they'd reach out to the parent and say, hey, is the attendance accurate? Did you by chance forget to, submit the absence? If you have, this is how you access HACC, here's the support. They'd talk to the student, make sure that they're aware. But if it was in fact that the student had accurately 6 unexcused absences, then they would create an attendance support plan. And the goal of that would be identify what are some of the barriers that are happening and occurring for that student. But then once we'd get to the end of the semester, which we just recently have, there would be a waiver process. And so what that would look like would be the champion ultimately deciding whether or not the student had met sort of the parameters set to have either A, the NC waived, so they would earn the credit, or the NC would be enforced, so the credit would then be removed. We've, over the years, tried different iterations of what that attendance support plan would look and what students needed to do to try to make this a more equitable policy, but we continue to see a number of different things that we'll kind of go over tonight. So the key challenge with the NC policy is really that it applies a behavioral intervention to an academic problem, right? And when we looked through our findings, through the data, we noticed a few things that there was some redundancy with this, so 42% of the NCs actually ended up being irrelevant because the NC, from the transcript standpoint, if the student failed the class, the F is going to be in the transcript, the NC would not. So even if a student failed, they failed, the NC was going to be irrelevant. So really the NC was covering up a passing grade. We also noted for this so this data that we're reporting on directly is for first semester of this school year. But the data, we looked in previous years and it was consistent year after year. Another inequity for just this past first semester of the school year, 0 white students lost credit due to an NC, while Black and Hispanic students faced enforcement rates of 8 to 9%. And then we also noted that it was punitive in nature again, right? So 33 of the students who had demonstrated that academic proficiency, so either they got the A or D, ended up having their credit removed.
I just wanted to note, if you want to go back for a second, I wanted to note for this middle pillar of inequity, when it talks about 0 white students losing credit due to an NC, I think it's important to note that that doesn't mean those students had perfect attendance. Those students had rates of absences either greater than or the same as the Black and Latinx students. However, only the NC was enforced against the Black and Latinx students. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And so this is just a further breakdown, right? When we look at those grades and the grade distribution in relation to the NCs. So overall, there were 202 classes, so not 202 students, but 202 different classes where the student ended up getting an F. And so that stood on the transcript either way. Whereas you can see under the AB range, there were 8 students where they ended up losing that credit because the NC was enforced. So again, it's really still penalizing students who have proven the mastery of the content. And again, to the point that Dr. McNeil just made, really the equity gap in relation to this as it relates to demographics. So as you can see, even the waiver rate, so 85% of students, of white students, ended up having their credits saved. I'm just gonna let that sit for a second. Versus our Latinx students at 51% and our Black students at 48%. And so, you know, a pretty inequitable policy just from that perspective. And then we dug a little bit further and we looked into the number of students that were in free or reduced lunch that were impacted by this. 76% of the students were in free and reduced lunch. So it's not only, you know, from an equity standpoint, but also impacting it for families that maybe aren't able to provide medical notes. Maybe they're, you know, working multiple jobs and not able to log on to Hackett each time because they're doing 5 million different things. And so some additional concerns around that.
I'll also add that an additional kind of possible reason for this disparity that we're seeing is the fact that even when students got the champion and they had plans to try to kind of earn their way out of or get their NC waived, the things they had to do would include things like attend AM support, attend homework club, and things that occur outside the school day sometimes, right? And so that could be that students who are free reduced lunch or students of color may have had barriers to even being able to access the waiver, even beyond documentation. So I just wanted to note that as well.
Mm-hmm. So when discussing this and when looking through this data, we've had a lot of really great conversations about it. And so just the concern around, I guess, that kind of paradox, right, where students that maybe have more resources, their students are really able, based on our current policies, are able to miss unlimited time if it's excused, while students that maybe just don't have this documentation are losing credit at 6 absences. So technically, according to our policy, if you're a parent parentally excused, you can miss 120 days.
And just to be clear, the way that a student gets parentally excused is a simple phone call for any reason.
Right. The other aspect of that is just also how this then aligns with some of the other policies that we have in relation to students being able to hand in homework if they're absent, right? So our goal is to really have students use different strategies to get to the classroom, maybe if they're a little bit anxious. So the example that I think of this is, let's say a student is having a lot of anxiety around speaking in front of a class, doing a presentation. Well, if they miss a class and it's excused, then now they have extra time to then do that assignment and to hand it in. So there's almost like this, there's also a misalignment of just some of our attendance policies in relation to then the academic piece as well.
Yes, we also find that some of these kind of like loopholes is what you would call this, right? Because it is not explicitly stated that you can get extra time by using this policy, but that is a loophole that you can find if you really know like the policies. And we also find that those loopholes are usually used by those who are more affluent or those who are white. And so that's another kind of source of some of the disparity we're seeing.
Right. So when thinking through this policy, and if we were going to not remove this policy, then how would we still support students, right? Because we know that attendance and chronic absenteeism is a nationwide concern and issue. It's not just ETHS, it's districts around us across the country. We really wanted to ensure that there were interventions that were across the different tiers for our students. And so we took a step, we looked at our MTSS kind of additional framework, and so here just kind of outlines, right, our tier 1 are all of our core instruction and just universal support. So these are the supports that students across the building are going to receive no matter what, whereas our tier 2 interventions are more targeted. So these are, once students have been identified, they've hit a certain threshold, then they would receive these specific targeted interventions. And then tier 3 is really, should be around, 5% of your student population. These are your most at-risk students. And so what are you doing for the most at-risk, the most chronically truant, chronically absent students to support? So these are more individualized interventions that are really targeted. And so there's some that we've already had, right? We have our academic intervention team, we have our literacy lab, we have KitCoin that provides more of these positive interventions that are in relation to behavioral. And then we also have our social emotional interventions, but we wanted to take.
I'll add that we also currently have attendance advocates that we have through a partnership with North Cook, and so they really help us support our students who are having some attendance challenges as well.
So with MTSS in mind, we really wanted to make sure these tiered interventions were in place. And so this is what we are proposing today, would be in place of the current NC policy that we've had this past school year. And that would be from a tier 1 perspective. So again, this is, all of our universal supports. This is across the building. All students would have access to the support. Would be really looking at a reintroduction of our attendance incentives. So we currently use KitCoin. We've been using it for a while. There's been some pilots on how we could refresh this, make this more exciting, engaging for students, get them to buy in. Dr. McNeil rolled out a tardy incentive plan for students where we really want to focus on positive aspects and incentives in relation to attendance instead of just punishment around not coming to class. How do we get kids here and celebrate the students who are doing it well, doing it right, and even just making improvements?
Yep. And as we move into next school year, we're going to implement even more incentives and just kind of like recognition ceremonies. Because like, how are we recognizing our students who are doing really well with their attendance? Like, how are we recognizing students who are on time to class and all these things? And so we want to start looking at ways that we can not only have some more recognition around that, but adding in additional incentives. So our current incentive is meant to celebrate students who are already doing the right thing, because when we had reviewed our systems and all the things that we have going right now, we had a lot of interventions, but not a whole lot of incentives. And I believe very deeply that you have to have both in order to get behavior change and to kind of encourage positive habits and things of that nature, right? And so in addition to that, we also want to add in some incentives that will actually encourage students to be on time, to come to school, right? Because we know that a lot of, some of it, right, with attendance is a disconnection from school. And so we want to make sure that we are making this even more so a place where kids feel like they can come, they should feel connected. But we know there are other barriers as well. But it doesn't hurt to have some additional incentives, just kind of encourage students to show up. And so we'll include some things like some positive signage around the school as well to kind of just start sending this positive message of a culture of attendance and the importance of that. I'm going to do more messaging around that as well, which actually segues us into our next one, which is an attendance campaign.
Which Dr. McNeil has ideas on ideas on ideas about. And so this would be partnering with Rain. Where's Rain? With
Our Director of Communications.
Yeah, Director of Communications.
Yes.
With her department in regards to, there have been some updates in regards to our attendance signage, but really a full-blown attendance campaign that includes signage, emails, weekly newsletters. And the goal around this would not just be to encourage students, but it's really an outreach plan to families to educate them around the importance of attendance and just the data that we know around how attendance can ultimately impact your graduation and post-high school plans. And so Also just the fact, right, there's a lot of information, and how can we get information quicker and easier to parents on what their direct students attendance looks like as well, in a more targeted fashion.
Yeah. Additionally, we've already started reviewing some of our current, because you heard Ms. Bolus say earlier, you heard her say, talk about that we send out some automated messaging to families already to like inform them of their students' absences. And we also do that at different tiers, just so you know, because I don't think we mentioned that earlier. But like they get a message at 2, they get a message at like 5, I believe. And so it's tiered there, which is great. However, when we reviewed that messaging, it was almost cold in some ways, where it was very factual, and just merely about like your student missed and here's the consequence. I'd like to, right, in working with Director of Communications, update that so that it feels more connected and positive, like, and welcoming. Like, we want you here. Like, I believe that even a message with bad news can still make a kid feel connected. And so I want to work with our Director of Communications to do that, right? And so something like adding in, like, we really want you here, why this matters, just rationale and messaging, so people know that we're not just emailing them to tell them the bad news, but we want to partner with them and invite them in.
The next area would be just updating our attendance policies overall. And so the first step of that would be really reviewing the attendance policies that we currently have and how those interact with our other academic-based policies, and ensuring that those align to really support our student growth. We've started that work. There's continued additional conversations that need to be had, but I think this is a really essential part of making sure that it continues to be supportive for students.
Yeah, and the goal of updating our policies is, again, to kind of create this culture of positive behavior and attendance where it really, presence matters. And so we want to really make sure that we update our policies to reflect that, and that we don't have any contradictory policies that might undermine that.
So next would be our tier 2. So this is specifically, right, once we've identified students who are more at risk, there would be specific interventions for these students. When we looked at the data, we noticed that there was a subset of students that were freshmen that were directly impacted in hitting the threshold earlier than other grade levels. So identifying and creating various interventions that would support students earlier on in their first quarter at ETHS. So that could look like we have actually piloted a tier 2 group that would be run. It started this year. We did it second semester. We're like, let's move that earlier to first semester next year. That's specifically supporting students once they're struggling with their attendance. It also could look like peer-to-peer mentorship. We'd also do check-in, check-outs. So this would be pairing a student with a trusted adult mentor for those daily check-ins, and then the individualized attendance success plan. So, you know, even just because we're getting rid of the NC plan, we're not saying to get rid of the attendance support plans that we did this year. Like, that's still the need. We still need to identify the barriers. We still need to put a plan into place. We just don't believe it should be aligned with the NC piece of it, right? And so the check-in, check-out versus the individualized attendance plan would be, the goal would be able to kind of have that check-in, check-out for students once they hit a certain threshold, and then once they've at that next threshold would be that attendance support plan.
And those plans would be, again, focused on supporting students and addressing any barriers to attendance, so that we can actually focus on problem solving to help our students find their way back into the building.
And then, so our tier 3 interventions, there is a school refusal assessment scale, and the goal of this scale is to, it's actually provided to both parent and or guardian and the student. It's a evidence-based questionnaire, and it pretty much provides the function behind the absences. And so it's a tool that would be administered and provide additional information on how we can help support the student with those barriers. And then we also have the virtual schooling option, which has been piloted this semester, and we provide additional virtual schooling options for students once they've hit a higher level of chronic absenteeism.
And the goal of that would be eventual reentry into general education, but just to meet students where they are while they're in need or have barriers, and have so that they don't have a lapse in their education while they're dealing with those things.
There's actually another aspect of this that I just realized we left off. So Dr. McNeil mentioned our North Cook advocates and that they are in building support. They actually have a tier 3 support as well through North Cook, which is the truancy. So once a student hits 9 consecutive days of absence, regardless for the reason, they can be referred to North Cook, and they have a higher level of intervention support that they do as well, which includes like home visits to the family. They have additional resources, and they get a case management. So that's also a tier 3 resource that we started this school year as well and would continue into the next. So in summary, our recommendation would be to eliminate the NC policy and add in supportive MTSS approach across all 3 tiers. Our goal really is to shift from that punitive outcome to a more proactive student support system, and ensure that there's more consistency and clarity around the various intervention practices that we have. We want to pull it out from just being, the kind of a tier 3 support to really focusing on what we're doing across all 3 tiers in relation to attendance, and ensuring everyone in the building is really aware of our attendance supports across. Because sometimes what we found as we were doing our talking feedbacks, right, is like certain groups are really aware of what this work is because they're directly impacted by it, but there's not necessarily a holistic view around our MTSS supports around attendance. And so this helps for us to kind of be more transparent about that, and everyone to be really clear on what their role is to help students get to class, stay in class, and feel like they belong. And then really just to ensure that our policies align with what we say in relation to equity, right? And making sure that we're have a really equity-centered instructional systems that then support all of our policies. So some of our additional action steps where we are going to continue to refine those intervention pathways to replace the NC consequence. We're continuing to establish those tier 1 systems of interventions and supports that were outlined to really focus on that behavior change. And then there's also a continued discussion around the alignment of this with our standardized grading practices. And so I'm not sure if you want
So
to
yeah, I can speak to that. So one of the things so when I had the talking circle about the NC policy, one of the things that actually kind of dominated the conversation was this verbose and robust conversation around grading practices. Teachers were really engaged in that conversation and wanting to, they even asked for another talking circle specifically around grading, which I then held. And what came out of that was this sentiment that they believe that we need some level of standardization around our grading practices to ensure equity for students. Because it's like the twin problem, right? Where you have a student, if you have 2 twins, right? If you have twin students, one is in one teacher's biology class, another's another teacher's biology class. How do we ensure that they have some sort of standardized expectation around what their grading practices should look like for a course? But we realized that is something that, even though it was born from a desire from the teachers, that is something that we also have to do in a very collaborative manner. And so throughout the course of next year, I've partnered with Dr. Davis and asked him to lead a grading committee to try to ensure some more kind of grading practices rooted in demonstrated mastery. But we wanted to play this fine line, right? Well, we're emphasizing the importance of student presence and learning, and also rooting our practices in grading for equity, which can sometimes be this push and pull, if you will. But I believe in this group of people and we can get that right. And so that'll be our goal for that committee next year. Okay, now we will transition to the tardy rollover policy. So I'll start by explaining kind of what this practice is. I'll assume that you guys aren't necessarily familiar because I wasn't. When I learned about it, I wanted to learn more. And so that's what I did this year. So the tardy rollover practice is this rollover mechanism where tardies that accumulate in one school year are carried over to the future school years unless they are actively worked off. And so a part of that is that students get on tardy probation, and that's triggered upon accumulating 11 tardies, which results in restricted access to school and social events and off-campus lunch if they're in grades 10 through 12. There are recovery options that are part of this, because I spoke to students being able to work off their tardies, and those recovery options include going to AM support, attending Wildcat Academy on Saturdays, academic study center, and the homework center as well. So that's just kind of like a broad overview of the current policy and practice. So the current reality, just to provide a little bit of data. So let's talk about demographic representation. Within each school year, from the school years 2023 to 2026, about 43 to 45% of students with tardies, like any tardy at all, including one tardy, were white, compared to 20 to 21% of students who are Black and 21 to 22% of Latinx students. And that actually pretty much matches our student demographic in some ways, right? But then when you look at the tardy accumulation, there's a disparity that really comes to light, right? The proportion of total tardies accumulated is significantly higher for Black and Latinx students than for white students across those 3 school years. So what this means is that although we have our white students getting more tardies in terms of earning one tardy, at least one, right? If you do like a end of one, they have at least one tardy. There are more students who have that, who are white. However, when you look at the number of tardies that students accumulate, so that means the highest number of tardies are the students who are Black and Latinx. And as we know, that comes from many sources, right? Part of it could be that more students who are Black and Latinx are being marked tardy more frequently than their white peers, whether that is true or not in actuality, right? It also could be that we have some of our white students who are working, because these tardies accumulate over time unless they are worked off. So it could also be the case that we have some of our white students working off tardies through those structures that I spoke to a minute ago, which is leading to a lower number of accumulated tardies over time as well. So there could be a couple of reasons why we see this disparity. So the core misalignment. Our current practice is really a pretty punitive carryover practice. It ends up in compounding consequences and futility, really, right? Because the consequences accumulate over time, but it creates this sense of futility, which reduces motivation. And I'll talk in a moment about what students had to say about this policy. And then there are equity and access concerns, as I just hinted to a moment ago. But there seems to be some disproportionality in who's impacted, which groups are impacted, which really raises some equity issues for us. And then it also, to me, one of the biggest things is the fact that it's ineffective for behavior change. It risks functioning as a punitive mechanism rather than a behavior changing intervention, because when students work off the ways that students work off their tardies are not connected to them actually changing their behavior and being on time to class. They are able to go to other things such as AM support or other supports, which are held at different times, but they can be doing that but still be tardy to class. And actually, in one of my talking circles, a student actually said that he was on a tardy plan and was currently being tardy. So on a tardy plan with his dean, and then that day he gets the tardy plan, he's tardy to his classes that same day. And so that to me was like a data point from the students around the effectiveness of this policy. So what we would like to shift to is a more effective approach, which is responsive and restorative. We want to focus on timely, so that means, if you understand behavior science, consequences really should be close and proximate to the behavior in terms of time. And so we want to focus on in-year responses because this emphasizes more restorative, timely, and developmentally appropriate responses within each school year. The reason why I listed developmentally appropriate is because I really believe that a student who's a freshman at 14 should not be held accountable for what they did at 17 when they were 14. Because if you have kids, those two kids are not the same. Your 14-year-old is very different from your 17-year-old. And so our practices should reflect our understanding of what's developmentally appropriate in terms of behavior change. And then this proposal will provide an opportunity to reset and improve behavior. It pairs accountability with meaningful opportunities for students to reset and improve their behavior. It really promotes positive improvement because it ensures that there's accountability that is supportive. I believe very much that if you have high expectations, you have to have high support. To me, that is not something that can be uncoupled, and I believe that our new approach will do that.
I think another aspect of this as well is it aligns the interventions that we outlined, like AM support, to actually be a space where students are getting support with their academics and not with their attendance, right? Because what's happening is now these spaces are being, they're busy with students there that are working on just working off their tardies, but not actually necessarily in relation to the academic piece that they need in that space.
Yeah, and that's something I heard actually from teachers and students around, like some students are coming there to simply work off tardies, and so they might be doing busy work or something, whatever it takes, but they're like, can you mark me tardy now? I mean, can you clear my tardy now? Can you clear my tardy now? Versus like, I actually need help on this thing and I'm here for support. So what did the students say? In my conversations with the kiddos, here's some things that were really lifted up that I thought was important for this conversation. So they really named the difficulty of recovery. They said that like it's extremely hard to climb back out once you rack up a certain amount. And I actually have seen this in practice. I've encountered students in the hallway and they were like, I've noticed them a couple times being tardy. And so I just have a conversation like, hey kiddo, like I've seen you in the hallway a couple times, like what's going on? And I've had multiple students say, oh, I got so many tardies, it doesn't matter. And so like, I actually have like experienced this in real time. And so when the students reported that in the different talking circles and things like that, I knew what they were talking about because I had experienced it. And that's also connected to like this loss of motivation, because their social motivation is gone if they can't get off tardy probation. And so like if they never have an opportunity to go to dances or do any of the social activities, then that actually can't serve as a motivation because they just become, they accept the fact that I just don't do those things, which as we know leads to further disconnection from school, which then could impact attendance as well. And so then we have a tardy problem that could become an attendance problem in terms of absences. Or in addition to it being like this bigger tardy problem, right? And so it can like be negative on different fronts. And so like another piece that was really powerful for me is the fact that most kids said they actually don't disagree with consequences. They were like, oh no, don't get us wrong. We believe we should have consequences for tardy. We know it's wrong to be tardy. We want consequences. We just believe that this is unfair. And I thought that was really profound coming from the children, from the mouths of babes. Because I think some might think that students would want this gone because they don't want to be held accountable. But that's not what the kids are saying. And so I thought that was really powerful. And then the last piece I want to share from students is this piece about classroom engagement. Students said that they were less likely to be tardy if they liked and respected their class. That means they felt like it was meaningful, important, and engaging. And so that reaffirms the power of relationships. And so I thought that was really important to lift up as we think through ways to connect our students back with us. And it really starts with that personal kind of like in the classroom, getting to know your kiddos, and kids lifted it up.
I also think about this as oftentimes, I'm previously school psychologist and I support the social workers. And so a lot of the times, some of the conversations that we're having once we're getting to like an SST3 and we're with the guardian meeting is, there is a conversation when we're speaking with our students around, you may not always like everyone you interact with, but how do you still move forward and build those strategies that you need to like still be in the space to get ultimately what you want and need out of that space. And so also by aligning sort of our policies actually with the behavioral intervention, then supports those coping skills strategies that like our social workers and psychs are trying to like work on with students to get them into these spaces, even if they do feel uncomfortable with it, or even if they don't, like necessarily this peer in the class. Okay, still, how can we work through that? And
thank you for adding that, because that's a really important point that we're coming from this on both sides. So meaning like working with students to be able to do some hard things, right? And building that skill, because that's one they'll need throughout life. And then on the flip side, reminding, I thought it was important to remind our teachers how important it is, the relationships that they have, because our teachers do a great job of building relationships. And so I wanted them to know that really matters. And I wanted to stamp like something that Rita Pearson said long ago, like kids don't learn from teachers they don't like. And so like this really, I think, speaks to that. So I wanted to lay out kind of like some of the tardy interventions we currently have in place, because these would continue. So we have tardy probation, which we talked about a moment ago, where students who have more than 11 tardies would not be able to attend different social functions. Then we have the tardy reduction plans. These are plans that deans work with their students on. This is when a student gets to a high number of tardies. They are invited by their dean to come and set up a plan, and that plan is individualized. And the current function of the plan is to kind of set up a plan where students would plan out kind of went to the action plan for when they would attend some of those other spaces and interventions to work off their tardies. Like, so one student's plan might say, I'll attend 2 a.m. supports, I'll attend 1 Wildcat Academy, like XYZ. So it was individualized in that way. I'll tell you in a moment what the proposal is to move forward, so I won't spoil that. But then we've also started, as you know, as I spoke to last time, during fourth quarter, as kind of like a trial run, if you will, to kind of get some momentum around this. We started 2 additional interventions. One was the hall clearances. This is the random clearance that happens in a random wing and a random hall that captures students who are just late to class, just missed the bell. And those students encounter some of our safety staff members, some of our leaders in the hall, and then then it's marked for them that it is a hall clearance. They were captured in that, and then they are escorted to class. In a slide that's coming up, I'll explain kind of like what the progressive response looks like when students get engaged with the hall clearance. And then we have our entry procedure, which also started recently, which addresses students who enter the building extremely late into the block, so much so that it would cause a disruption to have those students into that class. But in that space, those students are able to connect with the staff that we have managing that space to kind of see if there are any barriers preventing that student from coming back on time. But what we found actually is that a lot of students in both the hall clearances and late entry procedure are students who have an open block. So these are students who have an unassigned period and they just don't get to the place they're supposed to be on time, or they get to a place and then they decide to leave a place without a pass. And so we have some work to do around tightening that up. So the recommendation is that we do a tardy policy redesign to shift from punitive to a responsive system. And so what we want to do is replace our current tardy rollover practice with a within-year tiered response system focused on behavior change. The rationale, just kind of summarize, is that the current system allows tardies to accumulate across years, which does a couple of things. It punishes students for past behavior without promoting change. It creates a sense of discouragement and disconnection. It incentivizes working off tardies rather than improving punctuality. And so this proposal really shifts the focus to timely intervention, accountability, and skill building. And so I want to walk through the proposal at this time. So we want to first focus on what the new rollover policy will be. We will cap tardies that roll over to the next year at 11. What this does is it allows students to begin each year with a fresh, manageable start to work off their tardies in a short time frame. It also gives the deans an early intervention to be able to meet with those students right away and develop a plan for working off those tardies since they had an issue with their attendance in the previous year to kind of set them up with a strong start. So that's the intent there. It also limits long-term accumulation that we've seen discourages improvement. So this means no matter what your number of tardies is above 11, you start at 11 each school year, giving our students opportunity for a fresh start. We will continue to use our progressive responses for hall clearances because our students who are tardy likely should be engaged with one of our hall clearances. And so those tiered responses should be really effective at addressing this behavior coupled with some of the other things we're doing. So students already get a weekly automated home communication with their tardy count. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll also update that messaging to talk about the why and how we want them in class on time and the importance of that. And like kind of the impact on their learning when they're late, just make sure it's clear that we aren't just wanting you to be tardy for compliance. We actually care about your learning and your presence. And then the first time a student is engages with the hall clearance, they get a call home. The second time, they get a restricted lunch. The third time, they get a restricted study, which is really like a 2-hour detention. And then we have the fourth time and beyond, a student gets a 2-hour Saturday detention or a loss of privileges, or which is really our tardy probation, if you will. But skipped consequences result in escalation to make sure that students understand that they're being, engaging with this hall clearance will result in them having to interface with the dean or some other staff member to be able to account for their tardiness and try to figure out what their barriers are. And then we'll also do some skill-based supports by replacing the work-off model that we currently have. So we'll eliminate traditional work-off opportunities and reduce tardies instead through improvement in punctuality. So this will focus on root causes rather than compliance. So we'll still have the options for, we'll still have AM support, we'll still have Wildcat Academy, we'll still have, all the other supports, and we'll still take attendance there because we do need to document those interventions because those interventions still matter because we are still providing students supports through our MTSS structure. But instead of students working their tardies off through our tardy reduction plan, where they're going to these different places to work their tardies off, students would be, so tardy reduction plans would now be initiated at 11 tardies, as I mentioned earlier, instead of waiting till students get to 100 tardies or more. And then there'll be the development of individualized supports and goals for reduction aligned to student needs. So what that means is that deans will engage with their students who have 11 tardies, and then they will offer a tardy reduction plan. The student will then meet with the dean and set up a plan that really looks at kind of like what the barriers are to the student being tardy and kind of some things that they might need some support with. And then the dean will develop a plan where they look at the student's current rate of tardies to class and then set an individual goal to reduce that rate, right? So that plan will still be individualized based on the student's current rate of tardy. So an example could be if a student gets a tardy reduction plan, they qualify for one, and they meet with their dean to set up a plan. The dean will look at their tardies for like last week and say, okay, so you had 5 tardies last week. Moving like for the next week, if your tardy, if you reduce your tardies from 5 to 3, then we'll remove 2 tardies, whatever, right? That will be different based on the deans, and they'll be at their discretion. But I just wanted to provide an example of what that could sound like. The key benefit of that is that it really ensures that students focus on actually being on time to class, because that is what we want. And we want to make sure we keep the focus on that changed behavior and not on just kind of like this compliance of like working off this thing. And then the structural supports, as I mentioned, but I'll name again, because all these things work together, are the tardy hall clearance plans that we have in place for hallway transitions, our late entry plan, and then our tardy incentives to kind of encourage change behavior and celebrate the students that are doing well as well. So that is a summary and an overview of our proposal and recommendations for Dr. Campbell that I've submitted to him, if he's reviewed prior to this. And so I want to open the floor for questions.
So that was a lot.
It was.
But I can see all the thought that went into it, and I appreciate you helping us see the difficulties, the problems, the inequities, and the disparities of the current plans and the need then to move to something better. I also appreciate you going from something punitive to the positive, a better climate, a restorative climate, a climate of attendance, a climate where tardies aren't the focus, the kids aren't walking off tardies, they're really concentrating on getting to class on time.
Absolutely.
So I think those are some really good changes. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is gonna change the culture of our school next year.
And to that point, as a part of the, because we co-chair, I don't think I said that earlier, but we co-chair the MTSS committee. And so as we've done this year, we'll continue to track the data on this to make sure that it's actually having the intended, intended purpose, as meeting its intended purpose and goals. And so we'll see what happens. But we really think it's important to try to shift our culture to a place where attendance matters, presence matters. And so that's a lot of our campaigning is going to be around that.
Good. And we'll be able to track that data as well. We'll
Yes.
be able to look at it.
Yes. So speaking, actually, I'll mention too that I'm actually in discussions with and working with Carrie Levy in our data department to talk about what our data dashboard could look like next year.
Okay.
To make sure that some of this data that we're tracking
good.
becomes more visible as well. So just to let you know, that's also in the works.
Okay, great. Okay, Liz.
Thank you for all this information. I love seeing the details of the outcomes of our previous policies, because we knew what the policies were, but we never knew the details of what the outcomes were. So going back to the first policy, the serious inequities that were happening and how students were receiving or resolving their tardies and absences is very, very upsetting to see. It's something that I was not aware of at all. And it makes total sense. I mean, you laid it out. It makes complete sense why that's happening. And so I was thinking about this, the role of the champion for the restoring or the waiving of credits. And I'm thinking about, I saw who you listed who the champion might be connected to the student. And I'm wondering, does the champion work with other people in the student's life, like the actual classroom teacher or any other of their support systems, so they have a really well-rounded idea of whether the student is learning in class, whether, because it's such a heavy burden to carry, I think, for the champion to decide whether or not they get credits for that class.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't want to see any inequities repeated, having that one person kind of carry that responsibility, and then just the biases that we all carry, right? Like in making that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first I'll note that the inequity, because we are eliminating the policy, the inequity that was created by the champion and having to carry that weight, that one person having all that kind of power, if you will, would go away because there's nothing to waive anymore. So the waiver also goes away because the policy went away. So I just wanted to name that before Manira spoke to the rest.
And in regards to the way that the champion functions, so all of these members are currently part of either the grade level team or the IEP team. And so part of their day-to-day job is really collaborating with the entire grade level team, which would be the counselor, the dean, the social worker, psych, regardless of their position, and also teachers. I think that one of the challenges is with the way that the policy currently is that students could come on and off of the NC policy or the NC list depending on when their then attendance was adjusted by a family. And so it's a good thing and a challenge as well. The good thing is we identified it. They already built that relationship and rapport with the champion, so that would continue, that relationship would continue throughout. But there are also limitations in it, right, in that there would be then work done with the student, and then the attendance would be shifted and changed, and they would be completely fine. And so there's a lot of extra work that was kind of built in, and the champions maybe reaching out to the teacher, and the teacher's like, yeah, they maybe missed a class, but they're getting an A, and they're doing fine, and okay, they're great. So our goal then with shifting this is, right, we're still continuing to focus on the students that are actually at risk and not just doing it based on a policy.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, first of all, that especially with the NC policy, in my own experience working here, I absolutely saw everything that you talked about anecdotally. So I think it's really powerful to see it in terms of the actual data, and glad that we're addressing it. I also just wanted to lift the idea that you're pretty much severing a punitive behavior consequence with academic learning and mastery, because those two things are different and should be. And this replacement of, trying to create behavior change through positive support and intervention. So I want to really lift that, and I'm really glad to hear that. I have kind of a question about, so the one thing that I really always stayed with me was the idea of a student who has an NC. And like you were saying about tardies, what was the motivation to really try to re-engage in class when you already have no credit, you don't think you're going to be able to waive it, or you have a C in the class, but you're going to lose that C.
Right.
So, I mean, that just was huge. It's an incredible feat to try to get someone to have that motivation. So you mentioned something about the virtual school option, because what happens in that situation, of course, is that a student digs themselves in a hole academically, and if they return to the class, it's completely overwhelming because they've missed so much. So can you just say a tiny bit more on, would the idea be that you would have a chance, like in a class, to do the virtual, learn the material, and like you said, reentry is the idea, but how does what you mentioned apply to that case when a student is already so behind in a class because of their absences?
So that is, thank you, that's a great question. So the virtual school would be for a tier 3 support, right? And we have a number of interventions and support that would be attempted way before we got to the point of a virtual school. So our in-school credit recovery, our alt school. The virtual school programming would be for students who have multiple NCs. So they have multiple unexcused absences, actually, across multiple classes.
And that's because, and they also have to be chronically truant.
Yes.
Because there's actually a truancy grant that we use to fund that, so.
Right. Yeah, so so those are most at risk, our highest level, and that's probably, closer to the 1% of the student population, whereas our other interventions, such, again, the in-school credit recovery, our alt school would be for students who are maybe behind credits.
Okay.
Yeah, does that answer the question?
I just wanted to kind of have that be said out loud.
Yeah.
Because I think that's so important, because if our goal in the end is behavior change, but ultimately this is all about learning.
Right.
How do we re-engage and have the student actually learn what they were supposed to learn from the class?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that was actually one of the kind of disconnects as well, is that when students were trying to waive their NC by going to like AM support, they didn't necessarily have to go to the class that they were failing. Or that they have the NC in. They could go to any class, so they could go to their favorite teacher's class, and then it would count to waive. And so that was kind of a gap as well that we wanted to fill.
Right. And I think you kind of raised a good point, right? Like, we've tried a lot of different iterations. It's not like this is a new policy where we've seen one semester of data and we're like, okay, let's get rid of it. Like, as a school, we've attempted different iterations of how we can support students, and continuously in looking through the data, there was the same story.
I'll also note that, because I didn't mention this earlier, I actually sought out other schools who had a policy like this, and I found one in OPRF. And so I was like, oh, this is great. And I had some communications with some of their staff to just kind of figure, and their leadership to kind of figure out kind of like what they were seeing. And so they have a policy that's very different from ours. It was actually more kind of like restrictive in some ways, but then what they said, reported, is that there were still many issues with it that were also rooted in equity. And so it really kind of led to this kind of conclusion that we've been through multiple iterations, they've been through multiple iterations, like, can we really even fix this policy? And our answer was no. And so we thought that we just need to move forward in a different way.
Pat.
Thanks. So thank you. This is terrific. I love how you dug so deep into the data and looking at the philosophical shift from, punitive to more restorative and supportive, and then the policy and practices to adjust to that philosophy. I think is awesome. One thing, as you were talking about the rollover and starting fresh at 11, regardless of what you came with, I was thinking back to what you said about 14 versus 17. Just an idea, what if you didn't roll over freshman year? Just because, you're a very different person when you walk in here than when you're about to leave. So anyway, that was just something that came to my mind as you were.
There were also multiple kind of ideas people lifted up around ways to do this. And so some of them were like a tiered response where, like, depending on the number of tardies you had, a certain number would roll over. But if the purpose is to connect students quickly with support if they had some issues, right? Because of student who, most times, right, what I anticipate is that students who will actually end up having tardies roll over at all, because if you're below 11, it's 0, so none would roll over, right? And so kids who in the year, because they'll still have the opportunities to get, if they get to 11 in the school year, they'll have an opportunity to get a tardy reduction plan right away, and then they'll be able to reduce their improve their tardiness in order to get off that plan, right? And so students who end up, after they were reset, who end the year at 11 still, means they still ended with more than 11. And so that indicates they need additional support as they enter the year. And so that really is meant to have like a checkpoint. Like you start the year having to check in with your dean and get a plan to show that you actually can demonstrate mastery. So it's a very reachable goal and an early intervention. And so that's the point of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my major point that really struck me was when you talked about the NC policy, and there were the 3 boxes, and the middle one was the inequity. And you lifted this up, Dr. McNeil, but enforcement being a really important word. So we get rid of NC, so in theory, it's good. But what that word says to me is that it's about the adults, and you have all these fabulous plans for the students, and I think that's great, and obviously really important. But that's about something in the adults that's still going to be there, even if it isn't an NC. It's going to come out some other place. And I guess I wonder what your thinking is, or if this is a thinking that you want to have. What do we do about because we all have our biases, we all have our unintended consequences as adults and as educators. Is that something you want to spend some time on, or you have already? I'm really curious about that.
So thanks for lifting that up. So when you say adults, there's actually kind of like multiple sources for this, because when you say adults, most people would think like, oh, you must be talking about staff. But that's not necessarily true in this instance, because remember that students could avoid enforcement. The main way we saw that students avoided enforcement actually was having their parents call them out, and their parents actually provide documentation, right? But they're also adults. And so it'll be really important for us to partner with families, which is why that's a part of the reason why we are updating and refreshing our kind of like messaging to parents and like doing some creative things around our communication home. We've actually got a plan to do like a social media thing and just freshen up the ways in which we're communicating about attendance to families, because that partnership is going to be really important, because now that students don't have the NC policy, if parents, for multiple different reasons, right, have a different orientation toward the value of attendance at school, then if that's a mismatch, we're going to continue to see the attendance issue. And so that's why we want to lift up the attendance campaign and really like reach families and inform them about the multiple impacts on attendance, of attendance on outcomes. So that's the parent-facing side, and we want to partner with them in that way. But then on the staff-facing side, a lot of what we see really was in kind of like grading practices. And so that's why we're going to have the grading grading committee to kind of work around like now that because now the new NC is an F, if that makes sense, right? Because now if a kid can't master the content because of absence, which doesn't necessarily have to be true, right? Because in some ways, some students might demonstrate mastery, which is what we saw with the kids who got their credit stripped from NC, right? But there will be students still who, like we had that 42% of students who actually received an F academically, that'll still exist. And so what we want to do is establish some more standardized grading practices to ensure that our grading practices are more equitable as well, because that is really what will, in a way, replace an NC. It's like the natural consequence of what ends up in the grade. And so we got to be really thoughtful around how we implement equitable grading practices and standardize our practices such that presence matters a little more, but to what extent, right? Especially if a student is demonstrating mastery. And so that's why we're going to spend a year-long, kind of go through a year-long collaborative journey where we work with teachers and leaders to kind of figure out how we strike that balance. And so we'll see what happens.
Great. Thank you. This is terrific. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you.
Eva.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Eva.
okay.
First, I just want to say thank you. The student union has been very anti the rollover policy for many years now, and so this feels like a big win. I know you worked with the student union a little bit with Tim and Malimo.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions.
Yep.
They've been answered. I just wanted to ask, how did you land on the number of 11 tardies versus like 10 or?
Yep, so the number 11 is because that is the number that students need to start the year with a tardy reduction plan. Because under this new policy, students will get an automatic alert, an automated message that invites them and lets them know, hey, you've reached 11, you are at 11, you're starting the year at 11. You need to connect with your dean so that you can you start a tardy reduction plan. So it allows for early connection to a dean to get a reduction plan, because in that conversation, it would allow them to talk through kind of like, hey, what were the struggles you had last year? What prevented you from getting to class on time? Is there anything that we can do to support you this year? And then they'll say, okay, so you have 11, you're starting the year, let's say it's the beginning of the year. You're starting the year at 11. Kiddo, if you come to school the first week and you're on time, then you have, then we'll remove X, Y number tardies, maybe all of them, whatever. But like the deans will have that discretion. But also what it really allows for is that early connection, which wasn't necessarily there in the past in that same way.
Okay, was the number kind of arbitrary or was
No,
it like?
the number is 11 because that's the number of.
Currently is.
It's currently is. That's the current number.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, 11 is when students get a tardy, well, no, not tardy reduction plan.
Oh,
They get on social probation.
Probation.
I'm sorry, tardy probation. Sorry,
Tardy
I got it.
probation.
Tardy
So yeah,
probation.
so it's maintaining that tardy
It's
probation.
maintaining that,
Yeah.
correct.
That makes sense.
Yes,
Okay, thank you so much.
no problem.
All right. I don't think I missed anybody. Thank you again. Thank you for this. And again, I look forward to seeing the results.
Yes,
the
thank you
data,
all.
And
the
I would just be remiss if I didn't say, this was one of, when Dr. McNeil started, and we were having our transition meetings, this was one of the first things that I mentioned and had a discussion with her. And I would just be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the amount of work and energy and conversations she put into it from the minute, actually before I think you even contractually started, to do this work. And just has been a really incredible thought partner around all of this, and has taken a lot of time to really do this work. And it's been really great leadership working with her on that. And thank you to Dr. Campbell as well for engaging in these conversations with me as well. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's true.
Is this another presentation?
No, this won't be long. Okay, so we're going to talk quickly about new courses, course changes, and course deletions and proposals for the next.
Yeah, I had a presentation, but I don't have a
Pete, you can
connector.
do this in 7 minutes.
I'm just going to run through it without the presentation, if that's okay, because I don't have a connection, but it's just really brief. All right, so essentially, we have 7, 8, 9, we have 5 new courses. 2 of them are dual credit. We're very excited to have dual credit offerings in psychology, introduction to psychology, and in a survey of oceanography.
Yes.
So really excited for those. We also are going to offer an independent science research course. We're seeking to offer that in science. We've had independent study research, but we feel it's really important to provide a credit-bearing opportunity for that and to formalize that experience so more students can have transparency in that opportunity. We're going to have an AP cybersecurity course. We're proposing that, and we're also proposing the 3rd year of our lead advisory. Leadership is national, will be the junior level lead advisory. So those are our new courses. In terms of course changes, you'll see in your packet a lot of title changes. You'll also see that we've added we did a prerequisite change. We opened our teaching and education, introduction to teaching and education course to juniors. We really see a need for that. Because we want to broaden that opportunity for students. You'll see that we've made a couple changes. We're going to offer, we're taking some 4 English courses and turning them into AP courses because they have specific foci. So we're looking at AP Literature and Composition, Gender and Literature, and AP Literature and Composition, Migration Stories, which aligns to a course that we partner with at Northwestern called Migration Stories. So we're really excited for that. We're also transforming our 4 English classes to Pathway to Honors. Yes, we're finally doing that. We're very excited. It's the final step in completely offering pathway to honors grades 9 through 12 in the English department. Anyway, that's my update, and these are in your packet. Can take questions if you have any. This is an informational item, and we will vote on them in June.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
Leah?
Okay, for the sake of time, I had a few clarifying questions, and would it be okay, I could just email you those? I mean, not to keep anything from the public, I just, there's some picky little questions, and I don't want to waste the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Happy to have independent conversations with
Sure.
board members individually on that. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
great. Let me do FOIAs from the table.
Yes.
Okay. We have 10 FOIAs, 2 from Rondawa, 1 from Milanowski, 1 from Hayes, 1 from Randall, 1 from Johnson, 1 from Wang, 1 from Smith, and 2 from Wenig. Responses in your packet.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're at board committee reports. I know there's a committee report for Ed Red. Thank you for submitting that. We had a city schools meeting, but I didn't do a report. You probably didn't do a report. Oh, you do? Okay. So we'll have that ready for next month. I want to talk real quickly, very quickly, about a conference that I went to, a national conference that I went to. It's called the White Privilege Conference. It's an annual convening of educators, community leaders, and professionals. And the reason I want to speak about it is because I want to emphasize that the primary goal of this conference is to move beyond theory to providing participants with very practical, tangible skills necessary to foster anti-racist environments. So that's really the goal. Some people get really hung up on the name, but that's the goal of the conference. It's the environment is one of really good, deep learning. It's a professional growth conference, and I was honored to co-facilitate a breakout session with Janae McAlphin-Toney, our Director of Equity, and together we presented on the ETHS Equity Journey, and it was extremely well received. We had a packed room and lots of really good discussion. I just think that ETHS continues to serve as a model that's worth a national discussion. So it was really good. And if you want to hear more about it, I heard some really good speakers. I got some good books. So if you want to hear more about it, feel free to get in touch with me so I can tell you more about that. Okay, so we're at item 9, right? Yes, student board report. It was last report.
My last one, I know.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I have a longer report today because I haven't been here for 2 months, and this is my last report. So I'm going to just start with current events. So on May 6th, there was the ETHS Senior Scholarship Night with about 50 scholarships awarded to seniors to help with their plans beyond high school. On April 23rd, there was a soft lockdown at ETHS after shots were fired at an incident at Mason Park, which wasn't too far from here. To my knowledge, no one was injured, but it was still a stressful day for everyone at ETHS. I was lucky to be off campus for a field trip, but I know it was stressful. Over the past week, AP exams have begun, and then they will continue into next week, and then makeup exams are the week after that. Prom was this weekend, and I saw a couple of you there. It was a lot of fun, and I think everyone had a great time. Hadestown wrapped up, and it was completely sold out, all of the shows, and it was really a great show. And then to sum up the efforts of the student union from this year, we'd like to take some credit for the tardy rollover policy. That was a big thing for us. We had a successful walkout in protest of the conflict in Iran with about 100 students. We somewhat succeeded in getting vending machines open more, not as much as we'd like, but just putting that out there, we'd love to have the vending machines open during passing periods and always before and after school. And then we have formed ongoing relationships with the Ed Tech department to further our goals in finding an alternative to Deladeo. And that will continue into next year, in addition to some other working relationships across the school. And then looking forward to the rest of the school year. Graduation is next weekend, and I hope to see all of you there, as well as finals in 2 weeks, and then the beginning of summer. And then to end on a personal note, next year I will be attending Brigham Young University, BYU, majoring in political science and English on the pre-law track. My eventual goal is to attend law school and work in government in some form. And much of that is due to my experience here. Watching you all has taught me so much about governance and education, and it has truly changed my life and the trajectory of my career. So thank you so much for everything. It's been great.
And thank you, and we're going to thank you formally in just a little bit. But first we'll hear from...
I have resolution.
We're ready.
Review the student election. We're going to do that first. Resolution declaring results of student board election. Be it resolved by the Board of Education, District 202, County of Cook, State of Illinois, that the returns from the student election held April 11, 2026 in said high school district for the purpose of electing one student member and one student alternate member of the Board of Education of said district to serve from May 11, 2026 to May 2027 are as follows. Olin Wilson Thomas, 633 votes received. Laura Friedman, 582 votes received. Total votes, 1,215. Therefore, the Board of Education finds and declares the following are duly elected student members with the offices specified below. The Board of Education has served from May 11, 2026 to May 2027. Student member, Board of Education, Olin Wilson Thomas. Alternate student member, Board of Education, Laura Friedman. And that'll be passed by the Board of Education today. Motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Ante,
She's just stepped away.
Martin,
Yes.
Monsell,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Picard,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Savage Williams.
Yes.
All right, next up is the recognition of retiring student board member, and then we'll do the oath of office.
Okay. All right, so I just have a couple of things that I'd just like to say about you. You know that every year we welcome a new student representative to the table, and it's an honor to be here. And I'm really excited that you said that this has impacted your life and your decisions for future, and that you're going to be at BYU. That's really exciting and very exciting. So we just really want to take this moment to express our gratitude to you. You came well prepared. Your reports were great. We relied upon you to show us a part of the district that we don't normally see. You know, we don't hear student voice. So I don't know if you noticed, but every time you speak, we're all leaning to listen. Listen to you, you know, no pressure, Olin, but that's kind of what we do. It's really important. And, you know, as a student rep, you have this balance that you have to kind of keep, the balance of representing the students and recognizing what happens at the board table. And you actually have the opportunity to experience this in a way that really no other students do. So you've done a really good job with that balance. You've mastered that. Your integrity has been phenomenal. Your vision has been great. And I just really want to tell you how I appreciate you, and this board really appreciates you. Thank you for the commitment that you've made. You've come on days that we haven't had school. You know, you've come when we didn't expect you, just because you just really felt committed to this work. So thank you, and I'm really excited to hear what's next for you. So we'll hear what's next. So thank you, Ava.
Thank you.
And I think a few other people might have a few words. Not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Eva, I just want to say that, just to highlight a few things, I think that you've presented yourself as very thoughtful and not afraid to share and to ask questions and give your opinion as the student on the board. You know, you're right in here with us. And I also could tell that it seems like when you talk about, for example, the Student Voice Forum, that idea of student voice is something that clearly you really find important and you're excited about. And I've also noticed that, you know, sometimes you're speaking kind of your own perception or experience, but it also seemed like you are careful to say who you're representing or trying to bring in other voices and recognizing, for example, that, you know, sometimes the student union is very involved in things, but the student union is one group of students. And I think that that idea of trying to make sure that you're thinking about all voices is very important, and I appreciate that from you.
Pat?
Well, first, I want to say that I was very excited that I randomly drew you as the a presenter the other night. I got to give Eva a scholarship award that she won at Senior Awards Night. But, you know, we love having a student on the board, and I personally feel like it is a crucial part of our work, because hearing from you, as Leah so nicely said, not just you personally, but you representing students that you talk to, other students and other perspectives in the building is really important, because that's information we need to make decisions. And so you play a very pivotal role. I sort of, as my history, political science major that I was, it's exciting to hear what you're thinking about doing going forward. And I think that, and it is nice that you said that we had an impact on that, but I also think you were probably drawn to this because you had that interest. And the notion of bringing voice into decision-making, and not just your own voice, but seeking out the voices of others, and the experiences of others to make decisions and make change, is very important. So I think you've gotten a really good start on that, and you've certainly shared that and helped us with that. And so I hope as you move forward, and you're not the student voice anymore, but you're the voice, you're the one who has maybe some authority and power, that you're listening to all those other voices as well as you move forward in your, what sounds like going to be a great career. So thank you for all you've done, and good luck. And we love to hear about what you do when you leave us. So stay in touch. Thanks a lot, Eva.
Liz?
Yeah, Eva, I echo the sentiments of everybody else too. It's been a joy to have you on the board here, and I especially appreciated how involved you were in all of our discussions, and often having questions and commentary for our presenters. I think the role of the student board member can be, it's kind of a big role. I mean, you come to a multi-hour meeting that sometimes goes till 11 o'clock at night, and you have to get up and go back to school in the morning, and it's a big responsibility, and we just appreciate that you were so engaged in the work and clearly like listening and learning the same way that we are listening and learning. So kudos to you for that. And I also just wanted to make a comment about your other commitments, like the swim team, where my understanding is you had like multiple weekly practices at 6 a.m. and you swim for 2 hours, and then you try to get dressed and get ready and go straight to class. And I think that's just a beautiful way of showing your discipline, first of all, to even be able to make a 6 a.m. practice over and over again, but just your commitment to your team, right? And I think that those two things are going to serve you so well in your education and in your future career of just really kind of making sacrifices. We've seen you make these sacrifices for your own benefit and for your team and for your fellow students. So, yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations at BYU and wherever your schooling takes you after that.
I'll quickly add, you know, it's always an honor to have a student on our board that can give us the direct link to what the students are thinking. And you did that consistently, as well as faithfully. I think you heard that a couple of times, being here all the time, being committed. And I didn't know about the multiple things that you have to do, but I'm not surprised. Because in order to sit in the seat, you have to know how to balance your time, and you're already engaged to some extent. So you have surely proved that and set a great example of what's to come. So thank you for your commitment, right? Thank you for saying yes first to be here, and for your commitment to last with us throughout the year. So wish you the best for everything that you do, and things that you know about, and those that you will be prepared to tackle in your future. So congratulations.
Okay. I just want to say, one, this was not the best seat, because normally I get to sit next to the student rep. So I didn't get to have quite the rapport, which is a loss for me. And I want to wish you the best as you move forward. And even just tonight with the follow-up question in the press, like, what did 11 mean? Let me just ask one more time. What was 11, right? And it was so, it's so good. So I think you know this already, but just remember to continue to question everything. So thank you.
It really seems like just yesterday that you were taking the oath. And now we've already, I know, right? And now we've already gone through a year. And so I'm sad to see you moving on, but also I know that you'll be successful in whatever you decide to do. You've made that very clear and evidenced in the effort and in what you've brought to this board. And so I want to thank you for that. And congratulations on moving on to the next steps and doing all of the big things that are still coming and you still get to do. So thank you.
So you will be at other tables, I'm sure, Eva. So, and this is just the beginning for you. So thank you again for your commitment, and I have a little something for you.
So Eva, you're going to take your name placard, and I think that's it. You can take it out of there. You go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Olin, if you would join me at the podium, we will read the oath of office and hand you your plaque.
Oh, the mic. Oh, fancy. All right. I'm liking this already. All right, here we go.
Raise your hand. I say your name.
I, Olin Wilson Thomas,
A student member of the Board of Education
a student member of the Board of Education
of Evanston Township High School District 202,
of Evanston Township High School District 202,
County of Cook, Illinois,
County of Cook, Illinois,
do solemnly swear to support
do solemnly swear to support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
to which I have been elected.
to which I have been elected.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Olin. You look good in that seat. Of course. So, yes, turn the mic on and feel free.
Yeah, press the button. You gotta pull it out.
You can use that. 10 seconds, I already screwed something up. All right.
Uh-oh. It's underneath.
Well, here comes William.
Okay.
It's gonna go to the floor.
All right. Yeah, thank you all very much. It's awesome to be here. I look forward to working with you all over the coming year. So on my brief 2 weeks on the campaign trail, my platform was, if it's a priority for you, it's a priority for me. And I truly mean that for all the student body. I ran a populist campaign, and I intend to run a populist student government here at ETHS for the next year. I hope to represent each and every voice at ETHS to the best of my ability. I look forward to working with you all on this board to do just that. I know that we'll make some great progress together towards making ETHS a better place for everyone. So thank you all for being so welcoming here on my first day. I promised day one changes, so I got an hour and a half left, but I won't get to that, but I will get to hopefully some big changes over the coming year, and I look forward to working with you all to make that happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. All right, again, welcome, Olin, welcome. All right, so we're moving forward. Ready, Dr. Davis? Okay. So I'm going to call for a motion, and after the motion, we'll have, this will be moved and second, then we'll have a roll call to retire the board sin and die. So can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ante,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Munsell,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Picard,
Yes.
Rolowitz.
Yes.
Savage Williams.
Yes. All right, so now I'm going to ask Dr. Davis to assume the role of President Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you. Now I'm going to call the meeting back to order and ask for a roll call vote.
Ante,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Munsell,
Yes.
Parsons.
Yes.
Picard.
Yes.
Rolowitz.
Yes.
Savage Williams.
Yes.
Okay, now we will do the election of officers. I will take nominations for the office of President, Vice President, and Secretary. Nominations need not be seconded. Each nomination will be voted on in the order of their nomination. Once a candidate receives a majority of the votes of the board, 4 votes, the election process is over. Nominations for the office of President of the Board of Education for a 1-year term.
I would like to nominate Pat Savage Williams for president for a 1-year term.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? I'm going to close the nomination and call for a vote.
Ante,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Munsell.
Yes.
Parsons.
Yes.
Picard.
Yes.
Rolowitz.
Yes.
Savage Williams.
Yes.
Okay, the new president assumes the chair and continues the nomination process. Congratulations, Madam President.
Certainly. Thank you, thank you, thank you for it. Now, I'm going to call for nominations for Vice President of the Board of Education for a one-year term.
With great reverence and respect, and it's really an honor, I'd like to nominate Monique Parsons for the role. What?
No, go ahead. I've never had it done that way.
Well, I felt it deserved, yeah, I felt it deserved it. So I wanted to, I really feel that way.
Sorry. Thank you.
I was saying other words, I don't remember, so we'll just stick with there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there other nominations for Vice President? Hearing none, I will now close the nominations for Vice President and ask for a roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, John. This one belongs to you. Thank you.
Moment
For that.
deserved it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll call for nominations for Secretary of the Board of Education for a one-year term.
I nominate Pete Bavis. Because Bill Stafford's there. Sorry. I'm sorry, it was a joke. No, I nominate Pete.
Yep.
It is.
I don't know.
Are there other nominations for Secretary? I'm going to close the nominations for Secretary. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. I had to think about it.
We're all
Consider your options.
Did you say-
Is looking at us
Yes.
like, what in the world? It's late, that's all.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you. All right, I believe those are all, sorry. All right, so there's an appointment, this is the most important. Appointment for school treasurer. I would like to appoint Kendra Williams for school treasurer. All right. Okay, so I believe we are done. All right, so I have a few resolutions that I need to run past the board. First is the resolution ratifying acts, contracts, policies, and bylaws. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Pat, you could group them if you
Can I
just say
group
them
them all?
all, and then we can do them all at once.
Okay, good.
Cool.
And then we'll group them.
Okay, so I'm going to say them all, and then we'll have another motion. All right, so that one, then resolution for designating signatory, resolution regarding check signatures, resolution establishing dates to review closed session minutes, resolution establishing regular meeting dates and place, and resolution ratifying approved depositories.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And now we're at the superintendent's report.
I have a long report, I'm just kidding. Just briefly, congratulations to the class of 2026. They had an incredible prom, and we will see all of them and their families Sunday, May 17th. So congrats to the class of 2026. And last week was Staff Appreciation Week, and we had a week of activities for our staff. Thank you to all of the folks at ETHS that makes it the special place that it is for students. And we had just a wonderful week of things that we hope that our staff can show as we showed them how much we appreciated them with what we were able to do. So, and that concludes my report. And welcome, Olin. We've been done.
Great. Okay. All right, there are a few other action items. The first one is the approval of resolution abating the working cash fund of the district.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. The next is approval of updated consolidated district plan for fiscal year '27.
So moved.
Second?
Yes.
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 Yes. The next is approval of exempt staff salary increases other than exempt department leadership for the school year 2026-27.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next is approval for Pride Month resolution, but before we approve that, Liz is going to read that for us.
Okay. This is our resolution for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month of 2026. Whereas the uprising at the Stonewall Inn in June 1969 sparked a liberation movement, a call to action that continues to inspire us to live up to our nation's promise of equality, liberty, and justice for all. Whereas Pride is a time to recall the trials the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ+ community has endured, and to rejoice in the triumphs of trailblazing individuals who have bravely fought and continue to fight for full equality. Whereas the LGBTQ+ community in America has achieved remarkable progress since Stonewall. Whereas historic Supreme Court rulings in recent years have struck down regressive laws, affirmed the right to marriage equality, and secured workplace protections for LGBTQ+ individuals in every state and territory. Whereas for all of our progress, there are many states in which LGBTQ+ individuals still lack protections for fundamental rights and dignity in hospitals, schools, public accommodations, and other spaces. Whereas our nation continues to witness a tragic spike in violence against transgender women of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, especially youth who defy sex or gender norms, face bullying and harassment in educational settings and are at a disproportionate risk of self-harm and death by suicide. Whereas we recognize the resilience and determination of the many individuals who are fighting to live freely and authentically. Whereas we affirm our obligation to uphold the dignity of all people and dedicate ourselves to protecting the most vulnerable among us. Now thereby be it resolved that the Board of Education of Evanston Township High School, District 202, recognizes the month of June 2026 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month, and celebrates the achievements of the LGBTQ+ community and the great diversity of the American people.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we have a motion for acceptance, please?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, and next is the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes from April 13th, 2026, both regular and closed session, treasurer's report from February 2026, approval of bills, and personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, is there old or new business? Polling?
I just have one, I know it's really late, but I have one really quick thing. Over the weekend, I was lucky enough to see both Kimberly Crenshaw and Janelle Bowie, no, Jelani, sorry. I was like, Janelle Bowie's a different person. Yeah, and it just was amazing and really wonderful to hear these incredible public intellectuals, but it made me think about ETHS and Dr. Hill and Nicole Parker and all the teachers here who really teach the history of our country as it is, not as some people want it to be or sliced and diced the way some people want it to be. And it just made me really think about those great people in our building, and I'm just really grateful to them and their work. So I just wanted to shout them out. Thanks.
And Dr. Crenshaw was here
Right.
for FAN, and you have the book. You can hold the book up so everyone can see the book. Yeah, and this coming week, we have Eddie Glaude, who
We've
will
got
be
Eddie
here.
Glaude on not here, but Eddie Glaude's going to be on the screen for FAN on Thursday.
Right, it's virtual.
And then Friday-
So it's important to register for Eddie Glaude so that you get the link.
And then Friday night, we have David Epstein, who's a class of 98 ETHS, in conversation with Megan Toohey, who's class of 92 Friday. Then Monday, I interview Claude Steele, a week from today.
I mean, amazing, like,
It's just an amazing week, yes.
Yeah.
So check your calendar, and graduation on Sunday. So congratulations to the class of 2026, and we'll be saying that a lot on Sunday. Okay, can I have a motion or an adjournment to close?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So this meeting is officially adjourned
We are
at
done.
10:54.